Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Survivor Talks with Mike. We just finished season 43 of Survivor, so now it's time to go back and do a full review of the season. For the purposes of this review, I'll be breaking it down into 5 portions. First, we'll cover the pre-merge and the post-merge sections of the season, then the production, followed by the twist or new gameplay elements added this season, and lastly, the cast. After giving a score for each of these elements, we'll tally the score and come up with an overall review. Starting with the pre-merge, in this segment, we will be using my episode reviews from the episodes up to the point of the merge. We'll also be talking about how the pre-merge affected the later game and if the time was spent in the pre-merge focusing on the right players. Survivor 43's pre-merge felt pretty formulaic, hitting a lot of similar beats as the previous 2 seasons. I do like the ship wheel has changed, and I think the new risky rock made it so that only one person at each trip could get an advantage, making it less advantages in the game overall, which I prefer. At times in the pre-merge, it felt like we were getting too much of each player's backgrounds instead of getting their positions in the tribe and how they interact with others. They made up for that a little bit in the first 2 episodes by having a longer runtime, and I wish they would do that more often. Some lows came in this pre-merge from wasting too much time going over stuff that we already seen in the previous episode, which wasn't great blind and will likely feel even worse on a rewatch. I'll also count the Earn the Merge episode in the pre-merge, this time as otherwise that would be a really short pre-merge and a long post-merge. The Earn the Merge was a massive improvement over the last couple of seasons because they thankfully got rid of the awful hourglass twist. So in my episode reviews, episode 1 got an 8 out of 10, episode 2 an 8.5 out of 10, episode 3 a 5 out of 10, episode 4 an 8 out of 10, episode 5 a 7 out of 10, and episode 6 a 9.5 out of 10. The average comes out to a 7.67 out of 10, which I will round down to a 7.5. I think for the most part this pre-merge was solid, with 1 high and 1 low, but generally it stayed as decent Survivor. So I give the pre-merge a score of 7.5 out of 10. On to the post-merge. This segment will be much the same as the pre-merge segment, only instead we will be looking at the episodes from the post-merge. We'll be looking at who the winner is and how well their journey through the post-merge portion of the game was told. The post-merge of season 43 started out a little rough because they didn't always show us information that we needed to understand a vote out, and instead spent too much time on the challenges or bringing back the knowledge is power advantage again. They also sometimes seem to be setting one thing up just to completely ignore it in favor of a surprise, whether that actually was a surprise or not. They then started to pick things up though in episode 9, and from there on it was some of the best Survivor. We got some great moments like Noelle's inspirational comeback, Owen and Carla outlasting the Tide in the last gasp, the Cody blindside, and Jesse having Janine's idol all along. And I do think the post-merge did a better job of showing us why Gabler ends up winning than the pre-merge did, which didn't seem to support him at all. So in my episode reviews, Episode 7 got a 4 out of 10. Episode 8 got a 7 out of 10. Episode 9 got a 9 out of 10. Episode 10 got a 9 out of 10. Episode 11 got an 8 out of 10. Episode 12 got a 10 out of 10. And episode 13, or the finale, got a 7 out of 10. This is a 7.71 out of 10 average, but I'm going to bump that up to an 8 since I think the highs in the post-merge more than make up for the lows at its beginning. So the post-merge gets a score of 8 out of 10. On to the production. The production segment is where I'll be talking about the filmmaking portions of the season and the quality of the show that is put in front of us. This will handle editing, locations, shots, and the challenges. This season was once again filmed in Fiji, which they haven't left since season 33, so I have to take some marks away for the lack of diversity in filming locations. I'm starting to begin like I know where everything is on Fiji at this point. Like I could step onto those beaches and know where to go. With that said, however, I think the rest of the production of this season was phenomenal. The shots used were beautiful. I think the editing in this season was a bit sloppy. I think they do show why Gabler could win, but they also showed a lot of reasons why he should lose. They also kept information from viewers for the shock factor, only to reveal it in the next episode, which Might work better on a binge, but watching week to week, it didn't really work. The challenges this season were for the most part really good. It was nice to see some of the classics return, though the last gas will likely never be used again at this point. So I give production a score of 7 out of 10. On to the twists and new elements. In this section, we'll discuss the new twists and advantages that were in this season, and they had a positive or negative effect on the game. Survivor 43 got rid of the worst twists from the previous 2 seasons by taking out the hourglass and do or die twist, which is great. They also improved on the shipwheel island by making it more of a game of chance, while still keeping some of that social aspect of needing to read what the other players will do and weighing your odds. I also like the bead version of the Beware advantage over the phrase. It was interesting to see how the different players approach getting those beads. One downside is that they kept trying to make the knowledge is power advantage work. It led to some great moments, but I would still prefer it not being a factor in the game at all, which goes for most of these twists, even if they have been improved. So that means I give the twist a score of 6 out of 10. Now on to the cast. This is what I would generally say is the most important part of any Survivor season. I break down the cast into 5 categories: great, good, okay, dud, and get them off my screen. Get them off my screen is reserved for players who offended me as a viewer, and in general, I don't want to watch. Duds aren't bad people, they just didn't pop on screen or do anything really to affect the game. Okay has players who either didn't last long enough to make an impact either way, or at the very least didn't take away from the experience of watching. Good are the standard for what I want the players to be. Great go above and beyond to make me want to see them play again and again. I think this cast isn't amazing, but there are a few greats like Cody, Carla, Noelle, and Gabler. Jesse, I have a hard time deciding if he is great or just good. He was a great player strategically, but I often found him a little bit boring or repetitive in his confessionals. We have some other good ones like Owen, Sammy, Ellie, and Cassidy. We also get some duds early in the game that I think a lot of casual viewers would have a tough time remembering. Even the first boot, Mariah, despite how colorful she was, I wouldn't care to see her get another shot at doing any better. Everyone else falls into the okay category. I will give this cast a slight bump, as I do think a lot of them are probably good individually. They just didn't really make the most interesting dynamics together or have a chance to stand out. So I give the cast a score of 7 out of 10. So on to my overall review. This is where I'll now compile my thoughts on the season as a whole. This season is held back by a slightly weaker cast and a weird edit. I think the season itself is put together pretty well, and with a different group of players could have been an all-time great season. After tallying up the scores, this season ends up with a score of 7.1 out of 10, which makes it slightly below season 42 and equal to season 41, which feels about right, as I think season 41 had a better cast but kind of dropped the ball on the season itself, whereas this one has a great season but isn't the best cast. So overall, this season gets a score of 7.1 out of 10. That finishes my coverage of Survivor 43. If you liked it, hit like. If you would like to see what comes next, hit subscribe.